I spent a week being thrown around Asia's largest swimming pool, cramming Morse code at midnight, and nearly drowning to make a movie which made the Chinese people look like the heroes of the Second World War. It was the most physically, emotionally grueling experience of my life, and I learned a lot about the propaganda machine from the inside out. So what was this movie? It's called Dongji Rescue. It is about the British POWs who were held captive by the Japanese in a warship during the Second World War, and who the Chinese fishermen risked their own lives to save these drowning British people in their boats. It is a true story. So I got to be part of this soft power charm offensive, which is showing the Chinese helping the foreigners in this historical moment. How I ended up doing this is I'm an actor out here, and I turned up on set. On the first day, I was with a couple of buddies. There was the hero, the Yongxiong, there was Shuai, the handsome guy, and there was Dan Xiaogui, there was the coward. The director did not need help working out. It was like, oh, you're a coward, okay. A fun part was creating the character. So Dan Xiaogui, the coward, I rock up on set. They were like, yeah, you look like you're in shape to be a prisoner of war. Particularly then, I was a bit of a skinnier dude. So that fitted the role. And then they had me add with the makeup department a scar. And I asked them, they're like, where do you want it? I thought, it's gotta go on the nose. The makeup artist was like, oh yeah, that'd be really funny. Yeah, right on your big nose. That's hilarious. Chinese people do be direct like that. One really awkward moment was right when we were shooting that action thing. Oh my God. I always knew I've got a big forehead, hence the fringe. But I never thought that it would cost people thousands of dollars. So we're doing this whole, we do this scene, we run through it, and I'm like, okay, I nailed it. I hit my marks, I got the emotion. And my director's like, ha. He's like, 哎呀，你这样你的刘海就往上了。Basically, your fringe went up. We can see your forehead, so 不好看, it doesn't look good. So do it again. I was like, oh my God. So I had to just sheepishly move my fringe down. And that's when I learned, no, it's not just in my head. My forehead is so wild, the director will lose thousands of dollars in production costs just to shoot that. Oh God, get rid of it. So that was kind of funny. I did learn that about myself. Keep the fringe, cool. I've taken the note. And so I had to kind of go down into the water, spit out the rancid water. That's another story. So people were getting ear infections, eye infections in this thing. I was actually initially offered the role for 2 months to be more like an extra without lines in the background. But maybe I genuinely am a coward. I thought, I'm just going to get all the infections from that. No, thank you. So I just turned up in the end. I had a smaller but more meaningful role. I was given a name. I actually was a historical character. I found out later. That was really moving. And my role was to be this Morse code operator. So I learned all these characters, all the Morse code before. I was only given the role 4 days before I went to shoot, and I had to cram all the Morse code. So I think I have a video of me the night before. I was asked to send my tapping to the director. I still remember the S is like S. You had to go like 4 taps and stuff. Some of it I remember. And all that for what was ended up being like a half-second throwaway thing. I didn't even need to learn Morse code, but sometimes that happens in the movies. You learn all this stuff and then it gets cut. That ended up being a theme of this whole movie. So there was a scene where I'm with a couple of my soldier buddies, and we're giving a dignified burial at sea for our deceased comrades, lowering them into the ocean. What you don't know while that scene is happening, while we're lowering our fellow comrades' bodies into the water, the whole ship genuinely was at this 45-degree angle, because almost Inception movie style, because the ship was at the point where it was really sinking. So half of my effort was like must look sad, and the other half was like, do not fall over, do not fall off the ship. Half the trouble was I was playing a guy who couldn't swim, and I can't, so I had to really exaggerate the movements, and then had to swim in such a way that I would fall into the water, and I was spitting out the water, which was gross. Let me just tell you that there was a bunch of extras. Whenever they would shout, toilet break, these guys never had to leave. I don't know if they had bladders of steel, or if they were going to the toilet inside the pool, which is more likely. So yeah, that gives a whole different meaning to this shot where I'm like spitting out the water. I try not to think about it. It's all for art, right? I learned a big difference between Chinese directing and Western directing. There's this critical moment where my character had to decide, do I go back and do I help my fellow soldiers, or do I go and save myself? I kept being like, cut, you're in the wrong place. Your position is wrong. And then they would tell me to move. And I just really wouldn't get it. I talked to my actor friend later who explained that in China, the actor follows the camera. So you're meant to be more aware of where the camera is, and then you're meant to kind of get into the path of that. Whereas in the West, it's the camera that follows the actor, right? You do a thing, you get emotional, and the camera's going to follow you. So I think that's, in one ways, I think acting in China is maybe a better, more technical actor, because you have to follow the camera, the eye of the director. It is not the other way around. So there's much more of a, you meet the director's vision, which is fair enough. That's just a different way that they look at things here, and I respect it. I remember I was, even between the takes of me getting thrown about by this huge wave machine, they would be like, "Chulangla, the wave is coming," and then I would have to spit out my lines, spit out the water as I kind of held onto this ship. And then in between takes, I mean, I had my Morse code scene coming up, so I'd be like tapping on the boat, and you had these Japanese, they actually were Japanese extras that'd be on the boat looking down with the rifles, like, "Nani? What are you doing? Like, why are you tapping on the boat?" I guess they just thought that I was being nervous or something, but I was preparing for the Morse code scenes. But in the end, that got lost in the cutting room for, fairly enough. It's a Chinese production, they're showing the Chinese side of things. There also were some interesting moments in the movie itself. Characters are talking among themselves like, "Oh yeah, I guess the British are people too, right? I guess we should save them." Which I found very interesting, because I don't think you would have that conversation out loud in the UK, but maybe some context is China is not an immigration country. They're not as familiar with immigrants. And at that time, they were getting, you know, attacked by the Japanese, who were also foreigners. There's these other weird looking white foreigners who turn up. And so I guess they were just understandable. They had reticence to help people and risk their own lives to help someone who, actually the British at the time were colonizing Hong Kong. So, I mean, I think it says genuinely a lot about the kindness of the Chinese people, that even while getting colonized by the Brits, they put that to one side and said, like, they're still people too. We're going to help them out. And they risked their lives to save them. And they were soldiers that they saved. They were not just civilians. And it wasn't until I'd already finished the shooting that I realized who my character was. So I had this shot, right, where I say, "Remember me!" Everybody shouting out their name. Later, I flew back from the movie set, and on the plane, I saw, oh, they had the documentary about the historical event, about the sinking of the Lisbon Maru, the ship. And in that, they showed the last living survivor of the tragedy, and his name was Benningfield. And I just remember, not to be too self-indulgent now, but I cried on the plane. Maybe that's the altitude, I don't know, but also I was just like, wow, I'm actually really representing a real life, alive dude who went through this, and I have the name, and that's like a bit of an accidental honor, who knows. And when they were editing it, they just gave me this name, which happened to be the same name as the last survivor. But for me, it was a really genuinely poignant moment. You know, I'm from the UK, I'm from Northern Ireland, but when it's something of this scale about these guys who are from roughly my neck of the woods, it really hit deeper than if it was possibly about some American guy. And I just felt like, wow, this is a huge pressure of doing my best to represent these guys, and to their family will be watching this movie, and what will they think. So that was like a real weight of history, understanding that I'm a very small part in this movie, but that hit me. It felt like getting hit by lightning, to be honest.